behave, he would not do that. That's a sad and wrong message, but unfortunately it's what's often said to women. So I'm going to hand over the mic.
Okay, and I can agree with that. Let me just kind of say where I think it starts. It's not necessarily just the church and the church's responsibility, in my opinion. It's still the parent responsibility at that house, because the church can never get to the kid unless the parents see to the kid going to church. Now, once that kid gets to church, like we used to go to church, then the ministers in the church, it kicks in from that point. What you have now is when CW and I were growing up, he's older than I am, he raised me. When we were growing up, on Saturday nights, we would get dressed, get our clothes ready for church on Sunday morning. We would shine our shoes, we would polish them. We had bucks then, so we did a white shoe polish. We'd polish our shoes, and we'd pull our stuff out, and we would be ready to go to Sunday school on Sunday morning. And on Saturdays, as boys, we would go and we'd get our hair cut, getting ready for Sunday. And we would go to church on Sunday morning to Sunday school. And then we would have to go into church, and we would sit there, and we would sit there by our parents, and if we were talking or chewing gum, our mothers would pinch us and keep us paying attention. Then in the afternoon, after church at 2 o'clock, when church is over, we would all gather in the same house at Grandma's house, and we would do, you've seen that movie Soul Food, where the whole family gathers around the table. And then after that, we would eat, and then we're going back to BTU at 6 o'clock in the evening on Sunday. Now, the parents' responsibilities were the wives, the mothers then, would be cooking on Saturday nights the food for Sunday afternoon dinner. Now, when you take all of that away, and you take all of the preparation and the training and the family and all that stuff out of the way, and you get there, without that, the church can't do anything until we get prepared to take them there. Now, if mothers today, this is not for all mothers, don't y'all get me wrong, because I know a lot of folks, we go to the brick houses and we go everywhere where they go on Saturday nights now. But that preparation for Sunday is not there. So when you take away that pre-preparation for Sunday, you also take out a night of family. And I was fortunate enough to grow up in family. And so my father, who worked 6 days out of a week, would have to work on those days, but my mother, for example, provided family. And without this family, you all, and that's what we're missing, in my opinion, that we're missing family. And until we can restore the family, then you continue to lose respect, and you continue to lose the education of the young man, respecting grandma and the ladies. I'll say that to your daughter back here, good to see you. And one thing that I would tell my daughter's name, her name is Hawaii. And I raised Hawaii, and we have to do what I consider is the better selection of the person whom we're going to have involved. And you set those rules. I had some simple rules for my daughter. And I told her, do not bring no boy to this house that have earrings, gold teeth, and tattoos. When she finally brought this young man to the house, the first thing she said to me was, Dad, he don't have any earrings and he don't have any tattoos. She said, but just one gold tooth that he got right here. And to close that gap. So, but my point for saying that is the fact that in the teaching that we give them in our families would help the selection, and I commend you for that teaching. that you've guided with your daughter?
Yes.
I don't have a question, but I just wanted to follow up on the comment. I'm a single mom, and so I know there are a lot of single moms in the city, and I just wanted to say that family can mean different things, and I don't want single moms out there. I do my part with my girls, but I know a lot of single moms feel broken because they don't have a partner, but you can do everything Mr. Caraway is saying, even as a single mother. So I just wanted to say
Now, on the faith base, because we are faith based, domestic violence is still taboo in the churches. And I will say this, I was a little Pentecostal girl, and because certain things they didn't teach me in the churches, that's how I got caught up, because I didn't know what signs were. That's not something we talked about. But the loudest voice that survivors always talk about is their pastor. My pastor told me, like you said, go back. You're going to make that marriage work. God said, you know, who he put together, no man can separate. You know, they come and quote those scriptures, but I'm going to hold us all accountable for that, because that's why we need to bring more awareness on this, because when I do talk to my victim, they're like, I got to go back because my pastor, you know, a lot of times you hear the question, why she goes back. That's one reason most of our survivors go back, but for religious reason, because they misinformed, because we never tell survivors to go back for religious reason. We encourage them not to go back. But please understand this, you will be surprised, 90%, most of our survivors go back for religious reasons. They do go back.
So we do need to educate more.
Are there any other questions from the audience? I've got a couple that came in on internet radio, but...
Well, my second question about public policy. And it seems we have public policy that actually encourages this rather than discourages it. We ought to be rewarding intact families and not rewarding women to have more babies without a husband and a father.
But public policy is very important, but you can't legislate love. You can't legislate that. You can put it in place. We got domestic violence laws in place, and it ain't changing it. Matter of fact, 75% of women who die during domestic violence issues die after they make the 911 call. So, it starts with us as individuals. Should the pastors get on board? They should, but it's not a church responsibility. But the church should have some consciousness about what's going on. If the church burned down, would the baby down the street start crying because my church is gone? No, let's go to another church, because the church doesn't have the value it used to have. I think that's what Mr. Carroll was talking about. Church doesn't have value anymore because they're not doing what churches used to do. But that it's not so, because if you took the church away, you would still have domestic violence.
I would like to speak to the question about she's having more babies. You've probably not heard this term, but it's called reproductive coercion. A person who hits their partner is doing all kinds of other abuse, verbal, emotional, spiritual, sexual, forcing her to have sex. But one of the big things that they do, it's called reproductive coercion, and he can sabotage birth control methods, hide them, lose the pills, poke holes in condoms, all kinds of things, because control is what this is about. And if she's pregnant or taking care of babies, he's in control. It's barefoot and pregnant. And so often these women are not necessarily choosing to have these babies, but there it is. That's how it happens. So does that help?
Again, first I want to find out from, we can go on all day, I think, but Mr. Caraway, I know you're on a tight schedule, so I don't want to be respectful and misstep. Can we take another question? Okay. All right.
There's some from the radio.
I had a question about our homeless population. I know that we ranked 48 out of 50 about 3 years ago, and having worked with our homeless and generational poverty, and we don't want to ignore, obviously, the women that are not disadvantaged. But is there a plan, having worked with women in generational poverty and homelessness, we know that over 80% of them suffer from a mental disease and they are caught in domestic violence. So is there a plan at all to address that? Because we know that we have over 3,000 to 5,000 children at any given time that are homeless and that are caught in a domestic violence situation.
Here at the City of Dallas, we are addressing it through housing and different programs that can become available. It's very important that we do it, but we still have to do it as a team. We don't want to be going up in housing and finding this housing and then finding the same old jerk back over in the house that we provided. So a lot of it will still rely on teamwork, and then the lady is saying no. One of the worst things that can take place is for a beautiful lady with her children to let a sorry man just come in there and lay up in the house and have his cake and eat it too. So we do have to be a little careful as we move forward in making sure that our efforts and tax dollars that we may find applicable to certain families and situations are up to those standards, and everybody got their mind made up that I've been taken advantage of, and I appreciate this help, and we're not going to go back. This is just the reality of some things that we find. But yes, to answer your question, there are some programs.
Gloria?
I think that children are not born domestic abusers. They are born into that by what they see in the household.
That's right.
If we can get our top educator, the superintendent of the schools of Dallas, to come to some of our meetings, some of our events, to maybe give us ideas how we can get into the school to help educate the young children, to give them, I don't know, skills, whatever it takes to help the kids that are formulating in this mindset. Because you're going to be putting that child in jail when he gets older, when you're going to put in jail if you can catch him, if somebody turns him in. If we can help bend that mind back to where it needs to be, perhaps we can help those children growing up not become the abusers. And I know this is a huge menu. It's incredibly large. I helped create a camp in Gainesville, Texas, with 6, 7, and 8 graders. And I will, this year, I'm going to ask Dr. Frazier, the superintendent of Gainesville High School, if I can go in and talk to the kids that are young, impressionable minds, to talk about domestic violence. Have some men talk to the boys about how to behave as boys. Have girls, a woman and young girls, talk to the girls on how to not act around boys to get their attention. And it's not that important to have a boyfriend. It is not that important. You give of yourself just to have a boyfriend. There is domestic violence in the schools. It is not called domestic violence. But there is. There's the boyfriend and the girlfriend. There is domestic violence in the schools.
Carol Duncan with the ISD is real good with teen dating violence. February is teen dating violence. She is excellent. If you want to be a mentor and you want to go into the schools, give Carol Duncan a call. And she's over at the main DISD, great person.
And what I would do, I was with Mike Rollins, Mike Miles yesterday, and I will set up in the future if you want to have something of that nature, and we'll ask Mr. Miles to come. But I will also say that it's not just the kid that we need to talk to. We need to talk to the parent, because we can talk to the kid and tell him every single thing we want that kid to know. We give him the training. But the kid go home and then mama is getting beat up by daddy, regardless of what we've said to him, then we still have not tackled the problem. As you know, when you go to these PTA meetings in certain areas, especially in some areas where I represent, they can call a PTA meeting and two parents walk into the auditorium. And then we blame it on the kid, and then, as I told them the other day, we had a briefing here, and we were talking about pre-3K education. Well, the program is good, and I support the 3K educational program that we're putting into motion. But if the parent is not helping us institute that 3K program, then they go back home and mama's sitting there with her feet up and smoking a joint or blunt or whatever she's doing. All of what we tried to teach them earlier that day is just gone out the window. So my challenge and charge to our mayor and to Mike Miles is, and you're going to hear this rolling out, we're going to talk to the parent. And until we change those parents and we get their attention, the behavior, mannerism of those children will never be corrected. And one last thing I'll say, that people say that the role model of the athletes, as we were talking about these athletes, the role model is at the house. The role model of some of you single moms that the kids are just growing up, you're their role model, and you have to teach them. And we have to stop trying to depict somebody else that's a role model. And let me tell you why I say that about these athletes. Some of these athletes that are paid these millions of dollars, they come from little bitty country towns, like one maybe like from Bud Naked, Texas somewhere. And because his athletic ability allowed him to succeed, and then the University of Ohio wanted him to come and play because of his athletic ability. Well, you just brought a little boy from the country all the way up to the #1 school in the United States of America, Ohio State. Now, he's not used to all this attention and all these little girls running around him, wouldn't run around him in a little country town. But here he is, and he is Mr. It up in a whole nother area. Remember where he came from. Let's look at how he got up to where he is and why he got there. And then here come the Dallas Cowboys. Well, the Dallas Cowboys said, well, we want him. And the first thing they do when they get him off the plane after drafting him, they take him straight out there to Valley Ranch. He still hasn't made it over here to Oak Cliff to Rudy's Chicken. So he's out at Valley Ranch. But my point is very simple. He has elevated and escalated and missed everywhere he should have landed so that he could stay grounded. And then that money, all of a sudden, where he had no checkbook to a checkbook and Black American Express cards, he's forgotten about everything else. Now, that cannot be the role model because he made it. He is good for us to watch and cheer for on television. But the biggest role models in my life, my mama, my daddy, my grandparents, the preacher, the people that I grew around with, the people I can go and feel and touch and talk to for some advice and some direct advice. All right, because you can't talk to T.I. and you can't talk to Jay-Z. And then the last thing I'm going to say, I'm going to cut this out. Y'all got me on a political roll. The last thing I will say, what has happened that has helped escalate this is the fact that we as a community, we allow the radio stations to program our kids' minds and behavior, and that's by listening to all that old dirty, nasty rap. And then when y'all as parents get in the car, instead of turning on KHVN Heaven 97, you in there bobbing with the K1042 just because of the beat. Well, if only these kids could learn their lesson like they know these rap songs. Because I've said, let's just put all the lessons on some beat music and we have the smartest kids in the world. 1 + 1 = 2 times this, whatever. But that's kind of where I'm going. I'm sorry, y'all. That's my little political run. But I just had to get that out so y'all can kind of know where I'm coming from.
Mr. Carroll, that's why we reached out to you to be on the panel because of your passion. Thank you. Yes. Can we get you a microphone?
We
We also know that domestic violence is high among immigrants, and that women don't report that because of deportation. Are you doing anything to help immigrants?
And that's a very good question, and I understand the problem and the concern, but you still have to, even because of the illegal immigrants, you still have to tell somebody. That's number one. It does put you in a catch-22 situation, but until we know, and then you continue, even though you may not report your case per se because of certain situations, but participating in groups and forums like this, and this is one of the first times I've heard it like that. So at least it has been put out on Front Street, so that now I can also carry that concern and make a special category for folks that are abused but have immigration concerns, and so that we can still address that, because in the world, you should not be hit anywhere in the world, and then you shouldn't have to suffer and your kids for something that you're reporting, even though you're having some concern.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Caraway.
Could I add something to that real quickly?
Of course, you're a teacher, I have to.
Maybe the teacher eye. Most shelters, I know that the shelters in North Texas know how to help women with their immigration status issues. And there are attorneys throughout North Texas who are willing to do pro bono work to help women get through the immigration issues. But you're right, they stay silent because they're afraid. And their abuser is telling them, you stay in line or I'll get you deported, as if they have the power to do that. So you can help these women understand there are lots of resources, lots of resources.
There are nonprofits that are specifically geared toward foreign immigrant women. There's last night we visited with Chetna, an organization that's much like Genesis, but smaller, and works with South Asian women. And believe it or not, abuse in those communities happens from the in-laws as well as from the husbands. So they work with the whole family. And there's also the Texas Muslim Women's Association that does great work. So there's some others.
Mr. Caraway, you just mentioned that domestic violence, especially in our community, it is a socioeconomic issue from the standpoint of what's accepted or what's propelled by the media as acceptable as the status quo. We live in a society that's kind of have it your way, almost like Burger King. Do what you want the way you want, and we'll deal with the consequences later. But what is the city's position? We have the Grow South Initiative pushing development in the southern sector. And I know she works tirelessly in the southern sector, and that's why you walked her directly in to ask a pointed question in terms of what's going on in the southern sector. But what is the city's position? You know, Dallas has been working to be acknowledged and established as a world-class city as it is. But what is the city's position on putting things in place for the economically disenfranchised in the southern sector, taking it out of the church's hands and giving people the power, taking the power from the media, because as we're 411 Reality Radio, a media entity, and we 100% support doing any and everything we can to promote growth and development amongst our people in a safe manner. That's why we're here. But you don't see K104 here. You won't see 97.9 here. And if it's not about, you know, shaking your tail feather or making some money and calling somebody out their name, they're not going to support it. So the city needs to support those who support the city in its effort to become a world-class city. What is the city's position on helping that happen?
And I'll say this to you, you know that I've always fought for the little bitty people. That's what I say, I fight for the little bitty people. And I fight for the underdog. And that is the very reason that I encourage each and every one of you in whatever the communities that you live in and that you vote in, hold elected officials accountable. If you begin to hold them accountable instead of just going on a name and a feel good and voting every now and then, because we're in charge for our own direction. And as long as we continue to put people in place that's not doing nothing, and you know they're not doing nothing, because you're supposed to ask, well, let me see what you've done. Well, let's just go over here and take a look. Now, let me just say this, white folks, Hispanics, and black folks. White folks hold their elected officials accountable every day. I don't care what's going on. That's why 12 of them ran for president of the United States on the Republican ticket. They didn't like one another. They had debates all across the country, everywhere. They talked about one another, and they did all of those different things and said all those things. But at the end of the day, they wrapped their arms around their candidate, which was Mitt Romney, and they showed unity. Now, they lost, but my point is, they hold people accountable. As it relates to some of us as African Americans, I'm speaking of African Americans, we seem to not want to hold our people accountable. Is one reason why we are having certain concerns. We should not be waiting to grow south. We should have already grown years ago. So now we're trying to grow south, and that means we're still trying to get somewhere where other people already been. And it is only because, in my opinion, that we have gotten into a relaxed mode, and then we allow other people to come in and to control. They're controlling our radio stations, and the radio stations are controlling the music that our children are listening to, and the parents are controlling the radio in the car that they're driving and not the kid. Okay? So either way it go, at the end of the day, it falls back down to us as to how we were raised. Now, me and Tony, we went to the regular fellas picnic all our lives. Me and this lady right here. We went to the, none of y'all ever heard about the regular fellas picnic. It was the biggest picnic. Mitchell, it was the biggest picnic that we would have, and we would look forward to every single summer. But families and children could run and play and throw blankets next to one another, and we did not have all of this disrespect. And we had scholars and educators that participated in that because we cared then. Now we don't care. And we've just relaxed, and we've just given up the keys to say, hey, you drive us and tell us where we can go. It is absolutely no reason in Bear Street, down on Bear Street, and that's Bunton. I'm talking a little bit, y'all might understand what Bunton is, but Bunton is the heart of the toughest community that was once in Dallas, Texas. You could not go down to Bunton unless you were in a family or unless you went to Lincoln High School. Now you could go down there in a Madison jacket if you wanted to, you wouldn't come out. That's how Bunton was. So to know that Bunton has
shelters in our southern. We have no shelters in that southern sector. We need help in the southern sector, and I'm going to leave that. That's unacceptable in Dallas, Texas, that we don't have any shelters in that southern sector.
Okay.
And I'm going to continue to voice my opinion on that. I'm not radical. I'm radical about it because I get women in my vehicles on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sunday. And when Genesis Family Place are at capacity, we have nowhere. When we tell these victims to leave, it's nowhere for them to go.
Now, at Rudy's Chicken, let me just tell you, at Rudy's Chicken, where the new Rudy's Chicken is, okay? We will cut the ribbon on Rudy's Chicken on next month, okay? And so where the old Rudy's is, that you've seen the new one being built, beautiful, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's in my district. Where the new Rudy's Chicken is.
Okay.
Now you know where the current Rudy's is?
I do.
All right, that Rudy's Chicken is going to hit the ground next month, okay? And all of that land that you see is a part of the second phase of the first phase of Rudy's Chicken. There's a gentleman that's a developer, that's a brother, that's a part of the Grow South, and his name is Sherman Roberts. Do you know Mr. Roberts? All right, well, you contact Mr. Roberts. Mr. Roberts, he owns a developing company called Citywide. And he is the developer for all of the stuff that you see going up on Lancaster, the Lancaster corridor. Mr. Roberts is building there where the old Rudy's is, a women's shelter. It is called Serenity Place, okay? It will
right.
be for battered women, and it's in Oak Cliff. So I want you to get him early so you can get on board and we can bring a program inside of that Serenity Place. But that's currently under construction. It will be. All the finance and everything is in place. And so it's not a dream. It's a reality.
Okay. We could, clearly we could go on and on, and I do want to make sure that we kind of bring it to a close. I would like, really quick, is each one of us, starting with Dr. Robinson, very quickly, where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? I hope that we will continue to stay in contact and leaving here with the plan to do a phase 2 of what we just started here today, or at least to start meeting on a monthly basis. Because one of the issues we have is that it's kind of like churches. Everybody say, I hear God. And nobody is getting together with anybody because everybody got a separate vision. I think we all got the same vision. We may not agree on how we're going to arrive at it or how we're going to do it, but I think that once we can find a way to acclimate what we have, and you said it so well, it's got to have more than one prong to it. If it doesn't, it's not going to serve the entire purpose. So I think that's what we need to start.
Okay. Deborah.
I think we should continue to stand behind our mayor in the city that has done an outstanding job on the front line. I think I would love to see more faces at the DVAC meetings and get more involved and let people know in the community that we're going to get more shelters in this city.
I believe in, thank you, continuing to shed a light on this. Domestic violence is a silent epidemic, and it's silent for a reason, because we're all ashamed and scared to talk about it. What we're doing here is the step in the right direction. Not only we know the problem, let's be a part of that solution. How are we a part of that solution? Let's open your doors. Like I said, if you can't open your doors, lead them to those doors of those shelters, of the organizations. Mary Kay, I wanted to tell her they're awesome. Thanks for help for teenagers. Please tell her that
She had to leave, I'll let her.
Okay, thank you. So supporting the people, supporting the resources, the people that were in it, we were living in that bubble, help them burst that bubble, lead them the way.
Dr. Tully.
Well, I think North Texas is doing a lot of things well, and it seems like we're doing a lot of things well in silos. And we really need to start working together, work smarter, not harder. So I agree that we need to continue the discussion that we're having among different constituencies and work together.
And I will say thank you to all of you. I want to personally say that. And again, thank you. I am chairman of the Quality of Life Committee here at the City of Dallas. And I will invite and I will put on my committee city council schedule a discussion of domestic abuse on the Quality of Life Committee so that we can discuss it. It'll be up to you guys to formulate the discussion and tell me how. I can put it on as soon as April, okay? And which I'll put it on at a committee meeting. And we'll be able to sit and discuss it, and then you can ask questions to the city as to what other doors and opportunities can be up. So it's up to you guys now. So Belinda, make sure that I pass that back to Norma so Norma can pass it so we can. All right, but I will put that on and then we'll invite Doc. I'd love to have you all. You all formulate who needs to be the presenters and how it needs to be presented. I'm just going to open the door. I'm the chair, and I'm going to open the door and allow that to take place, okay? So that's something I can do.
Okay, I do want to once again acknowledge Lakshmi, if you please stand. Because very simply, none of this would have been possible without what you did thousands and thousands and thousands of miles away from here. But also to keep it in perspective, during the time that we were having this discussion, Another 2,725 people have experienced an episode of domestic violence.
Wow.
It's real, it's happening, we can't turn our eye or turn our back on it. In closing, or not quite in closing, I want to thank Lisette Handel and Dr. Robinson. Mr. Caraway, the amazing thing about this, literally, I got involved about 110 hours ago, and we were able to pull all this together. I'm not talking about this just that quick, and when good people, well-minded people move with a turbocharge from God, man, it's amazing. It's amazing what we can do, and again, it's an honor to be and share the space with you. I also very quickly we have from the NCTVI Mr. Edward Rada. He's the chairman of North Texas Council for International Visitors. Would you please like to?
We just had a presentation to Young Blaine Caraway. Thank you for being part of this panel.
Oh, thank you.
We were the diplomats. You, sir, were the diplomat today.
Thank you.
That's right.
And also want to acknowledge Dr. Jim Netherly. Thank you for being here. 411 Media, thank you. And one of the most important people just came to the end of the table, Norma. Norma. None of this happens without you. Lastly, on behalf of the committee today, and in recognition of all of your efforts, we would like to extend a bouquet of flowers.
Just tearing up everything right now.
I would like to have the
Okay, come on, let's get it. She wants to put the emblem in the. Yeah, come on over here. That's good.
That's good right there.
There you go. Perfect.
You should get that picture.
Me?
Yeah.
Ready on three. Ready, 1, 3. One more. On 3. Ready, 3.
Get the whole panel up there. Let's get the entire panel.
Bring the whole panel.